Hello snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the new Ride C10 snowboard binding. I rode these bindings at Copper Mountain on a gray overcast day with a storm rolling in. Some snow was kind of falling, slightly warmer temps, there was moderate wind. There's a little bit of fresh snow on the run. There was some chunder and ice and other crap on the sides of the trail. And I rode it on my K2 Cool Bean with my K2 Thraxis boots. When it comes to adjustability on the C10, you got some options like standard flip cams that allow you to lengthen or shorten the strap. You can adjust the heel strap as well because it sits on a slide track, so you can push it forward or backward just based on the instep and shape of your boot. You can also adjust the heel cup because that is aluminum there, so if you need to push it in or pull it out based on the size that you got, you can do that as well. There's two placements for high back rotation. You have your standard locking forward lean, so once you set it, it's there, and then you can slide the toe ramp a little bit forward or backwards just to help center it under the boot. Basically, pretty standard adjustments on this binding. With the heel strap, you got this minimal design that just contours around the instep. It gets rid of all the excess padding that you could have in there, so it relieves any pressure points or stretching. It does have that harder white plastic exoskeleton. Basically, the strap's not going to break in. It's just going to try to retain its shape for the lifespan of it. Then when it comes to the toe strap, it is rubber with a harder plastic around the outside. It is somewhat limiting on what boot shapes are going to work with that cutout just because it is so minimal, and it does come across as almost like you should run it over the top. I mean, seriously, look at this thing. It's like a total homage back to the 90s with it. It worked well with my boot. It did its job. These are stiffer straps that you can really drive into. You'll notice that right away with them. With the ratchets, you got your one finger quick release tab. I will say this, the ratchets are sticky right out the box. They do need to break in a little bit, but they climb well and they stay locked in. You never have to worry about them disengaging or slipping on you. I did have a little bit of issue with them not wanting to disengage, but you know, it was kind of like wet snow freezing in there. These were brand new bindings. It's just figuring everything out, so I don't really fault them as being flawed. I think it was user error as well as being absolutely brand new and they just hadn't broken in. You know, that's kind of where these things are. You'll notice right away, they do feel a little snug when they feed through that mouth of the ratchet. Prepare yourself for it. They will break in over time. The high back is stiff and rigid. You notice that right away. It does have a little rebound when you push into it, and the forward lean adjustment is locked in place, so you set it and forget it. At the end of the day, it's a high back with a lot of power, and what you see is what you get. This is just going to be a very minimal shaping to it. It just fits that back spine of the boot and allows you to push all that power back into it. What's nice about this binding flex is that it's very uniform. When you drive into it, you get just a solid, consistent flex, whether you're going toe to heel or you're moving around in it laterally. It does have a bigger footprint than the A10, so it just seems a little more rigid underfoot. It's not. It's just you've expanded that dead spot, so you don't get as much a lateral roll in there with it. Overall, it's a precision-based, stiff free ride binding for hard charging people. It will have a little bit more flex than the A10 counterpart to it, but still, you can drive hard with it and just power through anything. The overall ride of this binding feels a little more damp and a little less reactive than the A10, but it's still a highly reactive binding, if that makes sense to you. It's a binding that you can be forceful and just drive into it, and you notice that with the way it feels. It does a great job of dissipating chatter and everything just due to the foam underneath the bottom of the chassis and whatnot. It's not as lively a binding as the A10, it's just a little bit more damp. So who's this binding for? It's for the hard charging free ride guy. I'll be honest with you, this is just too much binding for me and my style of riding. That's not a bad thing. It's a very powerful, precision-based binding. There's things that I like about it, there's things that I don't like about it. I think the ratchets staying locked, they worked well for the most part. Little sticky, but they'll break in over time. That's solid. Didn't like the toe strap, it's just a little too minimal for the way I do things. I also think that the chassis is so wide that you get a bigger dead spot than what I'm used to. I could get accustomed to it, but right out the bat, not really my thing. That high back is very stiff, and you can just feel it when you push into it. As I've said, just feels like too much binding for my riding style. I'm fine with that. Otherwise, it's not a bad binding. And to see that Ride went to a composite as well as an aluminum option for everyone, it just gives other people that don't like aluminum bindings this option for something that's stiff and hard charging. Agree? Do you disagree? Do you own a pair? Are you gonna buy a pair? Leave me a comment down below. Let's have a conversation about this binding. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we got coming out for all you snowboarders of the internet. And if you really like what we're doing over here and you want to see us just grow out further, swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and I'll see you in another video.